Amen. There we go, 7 verses again. The last 5 of Proverbs and then first 2 of chapter 4. All right. So if we're going to do 7 verses a week, we're going to finish this in 2023. Or in the kingdom. I don't know, by the time we get it done. Okay. So this is the Afterburn. Because I'm planning to go through chapters 4 and 5 probably, so we're going to be a while. But this is the Afterburn, so if you've got comments or questions about this teaching, I'm hoping that this is clarifying things and getting you excited and reaching inside of you to get that internal part to match the external mechanical parts. To motivate, well, to help you find where the motivation should come from so you can be motivated. Because you shouldn't need to go to a teaching to get pumped up. You should be able to understand where that should come from inside of you. All right, so if you got a comment or question, Nate's got a mic to bring around, and Robert's got the live stream desk. And so we're going to start over here with Diana's got a hand up.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Rabbi, am I a maggot for not wearing tzitzit?
Say it again.
Am I a maggot for not wearing tzitzit?
No. Okay, so there's a good question about ladies wearing tzitzit. Okay, in my understanding, and also from observing our older brother Judah and all of their history, generally speaking, the women did not wear tzitzit. The men did, okay? Now let's understand that there is 2 kinds of commandments in your scriptures. You have positive commandments, those are the do's. And negative commandments, those are the don'ts. And they're not negative meaning they're bad, but they're things not to do, okay? Don't do this, and do this. There's not a single commandment for women not to wear tzitzit. So there's no negative commandment there. There also isn't really overtly a positive commandment either. Well, it says to the children of Israel, and we're children too. Well, actually, Bnei Israel is more sons of Israel, and so it can be easily interpreted to men. And you need to understand, ladies, and this is tough, this is not dishonoring, this is not disrespectful, this is simply the facts. Every bit of your book, especially in the Tanakh, was written to the men. Even when it involved the women, it was written to the men who would then share it with their wives or share it with the ladies in the community. Because that was the hierarchy of communication. The leadership was given the information and they shared it with the men. You see this all the time. What does Moses do? He gathers the men of Israel, the elders of Israel, shares the information, and they go out and they share it with everybody else. So there's not a single instruction that was given to anyone but a man, even if it was about a woman. That doesn't diminish you guys at all. Just understand, that's also how, remember, woman was taken out of Adam, and there was a relationship and a hierarchy there. Not hierarchy of value, hierarchy in the chain of communication. Let's call it that way. I won't even use the word authority, because only the authority starts with Yahweh and Yeshua, and then if he puts an authority in there like a Moses or something. But men in general are the hierarchy of communication. Now there's an authority if it's your father, physical father. If it's your husband, there's authorities because of those relationships. But the communication went to the men first. So, ladies, should you be wearing them? I don't know what to say there because I'm looking historically and I'm trying to interpret the verse. So I don't think you'd ever be wrong to wear them. Actually, I know you would never be wrong to wear them because there's no negative command. When I say that you'd be wrong if you didn't wear them, I think that would be a stretch. You are covered in a sense always by your husband, your father, or your leader, or whatever, and they're wearing it. And if they're wearing it, you can see it on them. And the whole point is that it be seen as a reminder to keep the commandments. Numbers 15. Okay? So just understand that. So when we ask the question, no, I don't think Yahweh will look down on you if you have decided that you feel comfortable to be covered by whoever's covering you, and that as long as they're wearing it, that covers you. Now, if you have a husband or leadership that isn't wearing it, you're not covered, you may want to go ahead and wear them. Even if you are covered, you may want to wear them. Okay, it's a good question, but no, I don't think because I think the ladies would love to wear them. I don't think there's hardly any lady out there that would be reluctant. Here's where the problem the ladies run into. You ladies want to colorify, I don't know what the right word is for that. You want to make them different colors. Colorize is, I guess, and you know, because you're thinking them more as accessories. Well, if I put green or purple or this or that, it'll match my clothes, and I want to wear that set of tzitzit with that outfit. They're not an accessory, and they're not a fashion statement. Don't put beads in them. Don't put other colors in them. Well, you know, and there's lots of videos by some pretty big name ministries out there that don't agree with me on this. Well, it says that one string has to be blue and we can do whatever we want with the other strings. It doesn't say that. It says take one string, make it blue. The default, pashat, simple understanding would be leave the other strings alone. And so they would have likely gotten the whitest string they could have found, because after all, if they got black string, like off of a sheep that had darker wool, because they made them generally out of wool, that they would have not been able to see the blue. So for the blue to really pop out, they would have gotten the whitest string. Now, bear in mind, they weren't bleaching the string and everything else, so it was not going to be perfect. It would have been little shades of like off-white or yellow or a little brown in some of the string, little places. Think about the tzitzit, though. Everybody, including the Jews, understands that the blue thread represents what? Mashiach. They all do. It's got a royal blue, kingly blue. It's Mashiach. The Jews understand this as well. And so what is this? King Mashiach is wrapped around the white strings that are actually blemished, imperfect, but mostly as white as they can be. You know what that represents? It represents you. When you sin, what does it do? It stains you. If I take this white piece of paper here and I spill something like grape juice on it, I could maybe clean let's say it wasn't paper, it was made out of cloth or something. I could clean it, but would it still be stained? Possibly. So yes, you are washed clean by the blood of Yeshua. You are forgiven of your sins, but that doesn't mean there's not stain still there. Now it says that the bride, when she makes herself ready, is wearing an unblemished, perfect white outfit. You know why? Because at the moment before the wedding, you get to put on Yeshua and his righteousness, because your righteousness will always be filthy rags. Your righteousness will always be full of all the stains of every dumb thing you ever did. Yes, they're clean in that you've been washed clean. Okay, if you've got children, you know your children have lots of clothing that is clean but not clean. Lots of stains. I used to play outside and I had grass stains on everything that I ever had to wear. All my pants, grass stains. Because I was rolling in it, falling in it, tackling the other, fighting in it, whatever. I had green stains in my pants always. Now, they were clean. My mother washed them. And so we sin often enough that I promise you, filthy rags is probably a good description. And so imagine now the white tzitzit, which you can only get with white, wrapped now with the righteousness of Yeshua to cover all of that stain and all that blemish. You cannot get this imagery wearing rainbow-colored tzitzit. So don't be putting the purples and the oranges and the greens and the browns and the 5 different shades of blue and everything else in there. Because I ask people all the time, well, why do you put those things in your tzitzit? They go, because I can. What do you mean because you can? Well, because in the scripture it says I can do whatever I want with it. It does not. It does no such thing. And I know a lot of people don't respect the Jewish community. But if you go to the Jewish community, they wear white tzitzit. And for a long time, they didn't even wear the blue because they had lost touch with where the blue was, and they were wanting to just get the exact right blue, whatever. But you never see them wearing multicolored tzitzit. Ever in history. They wore white with one blue. And today, they're doing it again. As a matter of fact, the ones I wear come from an Orthodox source where they believe they've got that techelet blue, which is a specific shade of blue, and white with the blue. Okay, so to answer your question, Diana, you're welcome to wear tzitzit, but just wear white with blue. Okay? All white, one blue. And by the way, it's really funny. All those people out there, they go, well, I don't have to bow down to the Jews. Really? So how many strings do you use? And how do you knot it? They almost all do it exactly the way the Jews do. They just want to do it with the colors they want. Well, then why don't you just change the way it looks completely if you don't want to do what the Jews do? Because there isn't a verse in here that tells you how many strings to use or how to attach it to your clothing or what it looks like. The only way we know is because of the existence of Judah, which we're told in Genesis that a teacher will not depart, the scepter will not depart from between the legs of Judah. between his feet. So they're supposed to be existing for a reference. Not that they get the authority to dictate to us how we do things with all their Mishnah and the Talmud and how they do things. But when you don't know, and the Bible doesn't tell us, looking at how they do it is a good starting point. I didn't say just do whatever they do, but it's a good place to start. Now, of course, if you have a teacher, go to your teacher. That's a better place to start, because maybe your teacher's already had this question come up maybe 50,000 times, okay? And has an answer for it. By the way, I did this exact little back and forth one time at a conference where there was a prominent other speaker there wearing purple tzitzit at the time. And I wasn't paying any attention as I'm like totally eviscerating wearing anything but blue and white. My wife pointed out, she goes, "You do realize that so-and-so was wearing purple?" I said, "Oh yeah, well, look, I'm not afraid, but wouldn't you know, to give him respect, the next day when he spoke, he was wearing a blazer and he opened up and said, for the sake of my brother Steve here, I'm wearing blue today." I don't know what he did after that, but at least, I'm just showing you that, that also when it comes to the maggot thing, I didn't have any fear knowing full well I had other people sitting at the table there with me in the discussion wearing rainbow-colored tzitzit to stand up there and say, this is not right. Okay? Now, what I won't do, so you learn the full lesson that we talked about today, I will not come up to you with your rainbow tzitzit and correct you. I answered your question because you asked me. You see the difference? I'm not going to come over and give you grief. You'll hear it enough and figure it out enough. At some point, you'll make the decision, hopefully, and you'll correct what needs to be corrected. But I'm not going to come over and give you grief because you're wearing something that I don't think you should. Now, if you're in leadership, that's a different story because you're going to be up here representing what we're teaching in leadership, and I expect that differently. And I hope you understand the difference there. Okay? But it's a good question, thank you. And maybe we could just chop that up a little bit. We could put that as a little separate in focus just on tzitzit. But I know we've talked about this before. Okay? Is that clear to everyone? Does anybody have a question about that? Because I'm sure they're going nuts on live stream now going, blah, 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 blah. I'll wear rainbow if I want. Do whatever you want. You got to stand before him, not me. I got to stand before him for me, not for you. I do have to stand before him for you in that I am responsible for what I said. I gave you information. What you do with it is up to you. And that's your choice. All right, who's next? Okay, Shira has her hand up.
Great stuff. I had some thoughts about the secret counsel of Yahweh, and maybe you can correct, confirm, expand. But I've always loved that word secret. That's always been intriguing to me when I see that in Scripture. And the secret counsel of Yahweh is with the straight. And you so clearly said this isn't about the calendar. It isn't about head knowledge. It isn't about all those things that can divide us. And so while you were preaching, I just felt like, okay, Father, can you help me understand what this is? And the thought that I had was Psalm 139:15. My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret. And it just like this, I felt like this light was dawning. It's like, okay, Father is so loving and so he honors us by giving us the secret of Yahweh, which has to do with our own blind spots. It has to do with, this is between me and you, my child. I'm going to show you, the secret things. Maybe other people see them, maybe they don't. But as we've been looking at your teaching that you made some time ago about the 7 things that Yahweh hates, and there's quite a bit in there about blind spots and our pride. Right. And so I said, wow, the secret of Yahweh is when he actually could honor me by showing me junk that I don't see, because he's so committed to, making each of us ready to be that bride. And then you went on to talk about understanding, and that understanding about what he's actually doing with me. Why am I going through this trial? That is a very secret and private thing, and it's just really precious. So I liked that thought, and I wanted to pass it by you.
Amen, amen. And by the way, this is important from a Hebraic point of view, that it's not that shiur is either right or wrong, it's an and. That's another way of it being applied. Instead of it being either that way or this way, it's both. Okay, so I believe you're right. That is a way it can be applied, where he reveals stuff about ourselves to ourselves. Okay, but I think it might be better to understand the word secret as opposed, switch it to the idea of something being hidden that's revealed. So the idea of pulling the eyes open and the ears open, all of you are now receiving essentially something that was hidden in plain sight, but it was hidden. Okay? And so when he says the secret things, it doesn't mean that they're actually locked up somewhere that nobody's ever seen them or heard them, but they have not yet been revealed to be understood. Because when he taught the parables, until he explained them, they were essentially secret things, even though he said it out loud in front of everybody. And sometimes he took the apostles aside and said, it's not for them to understand, but for you to understand, so I'm going to reveal them to you. So in that case, they're actually secret, even though he said it out loud in front of everybody. But he didn't reveal it and the understanding of it until they were in private. So just so you understand that it has more to do with something hidden being revealed as opposed to, and by hidden, it could be hidden right out there in plain sight. But I also like that very much, what you said, which is, why don't you focus on him just revealing all that stuff about you, to you. That's a good one too, I like that. Because I think he allows us to go, through that ignorance is bliss thing when we're not having our eyes open and ears open and just chugging along, totally unaware of just how dumb we are and how cruel or this or disrespectful, whatever. We're just chugging along. And then he starts to reveal those things to us. That's cool. I appreciate that. Okay, where's the mic? Okay, Daweed's got his hand up.
I had a thought that came up, coalesced a little bit from that interchange there. I was thinking about the Yesharim, or the straight ones, being people who are going in the way of Yahweh. And part of that way is being under his authority structure. And so when they're hearing the secret of Yahweh, they're hearing it like, for example, you. Because they're sitting in the place that they need to be on the right day, at the right time. They're sitting under authority. They're taking counsel from authority and those kind of things. So because they're walking in that way and staying under authority, they're going to hear the secret of Yahweh because it's going to come through those sources. So that's one of the thoughts I thought of.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so that triggered something for me to say, which is, could it be that straight has to do with vertical alignment? That's kind of what he's trying to say there. In other words, the straight ones, the ones that stay in that straight line of vertical instead of zigzagging all different directions because they just, I like a little of this and I'm under this authority over here, but I'm also under that authority over there. And by the way, what am I talking about? Well, your mother or your father may have a certain amount of authority still on how you keep Torah. Your friends might have that. Your boss may have that. This is not a straight alignment. So the straight ones that are straight vertically as well. Between you, whoever your leaders are, straight up through Yeshua to the Father. And as long as you're straight in that one also, that's good. I like that, because that's what I saw in what you were trying to say there. Because remember, those guys who all promote the kumbaya circles don't understand that straight alignment. And I don't mean to mock it that way, but they want to all sit around and everybody has, there are groups that I talk about. Well, there are groups that I try to counsel, that I hear about and everything else that are out there that every week they just come around together and everybody has something to say and they just get in a circle and they do the portion or whatever they're doing, the Torah portion, and they get nowhere. Because without leadership, there's no vision. Without vision, they don't get anywhere. And everybody, is subject to whatever insight somebody thinks they have. And they just stand up and share whatever. And then, and I talk to people all the time. I talked to a group recently where the gentleman who called me has been doing this for about 12 years, but he was never in a teaching position. And I said to him, but you were under 3 or 4 different teachers during that time. Do you actually feel comfortable to be teaching? I said, you may not like to hear this, but I'd be really careful, and I would actually want you to, I would rather you put the mic down or be reluctant to pick it up, because are you actually ready to take that full responsibility as teacher? Because if you're going to lead a group discussion and then people are going to look to you to be able to decide whether something that was just said was right or wrong, and to make clarifications or whatever like we do on Tuesday night, you know, if you notice, like when I have David or somebody else, lead the Torah study, generally speaking, the answer is, well, this is what Rabbi said on this is what Rabbi said on that, or I'll have to get back to you and let me ask him, instead of giving their own opinion, because once you give your own opinion, now you stepped in the role of teacher, you are responsible for being right or wrong. And so you are always safer deferring that over to. Yeshua even did that. He deferred everything off to the Father. He said nothing of himself. I mean, even Yeshua did that. And certainly Yeshua could have said, blah, 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 blah. And I said, no. I defer everything over. It's just what my Father says. That's a big difference. But it takes a really humble person to come into this. We have a lot of pastors that come in from churches, and they switch to Torah observance, and they won't put down the mic and get retrained. And that's why we get Messianic, Messianic Baptist, Messianic Lutheran, Messianic Catholic. It's just a mess. Because you're getting a somewhat Messianic point of view filtered through the denomination they came from. And it takes a long time to unlearn all that stuff, and you need to put that microphone down. But then I might have to get a real job. Well, yeah, you might while you're being trained. I know you've sat in front of a mic for the last 30. We've got people coming into this who've been in front of congregations for 20, 30 years, leading congregations. They do not want to go put that mic down and get retrained. Sorry, but you're asking for a lot of trouble if you don't. Because Abba's watching you be foolish because you're still teaching a perverted, twisted version through the filter of the denomination you came out of. And so, yes, mechanically, you may be correct now. You moved from Sunday to Saturday, you gave up Christmas and Easter and started keeping the feast, blah, blah, blah. But you still see things through that denominational filter. So if I was Baptist and you were coming from a Baptist filter, I would say, oh, I know what he's talking about. It goes from that guy's speaking Baptist. Or maybe that person's Lutheran. Or maybe they're charismatic. Or maybe they're whatever. Just fill in the blank, Catholic. But you can hear it. And you know you can. You know you listen to teachers. You can tell me exactly what their background is. You can say, oh, that person used to be Baptist or Methodist or this or that. Because you hear it. You know. Right or wrong. So to filter that out or to avoid that, you have to put that mic down and have somebody point out all your filter problems and start from scratch. That is hard to do. It takes a lot of humility to do that. Because there's a lot of pride that could develop in leading a group and being comfortable with that burden. Well, don't you feel bad enough all the stuff you taught that was wrong? I know you do, and I want you to let that go. I don't want you to feel guilty about it forever. But then, do you want to keep teaching stuff that might be wrong, or do you want to put the mic down and get retooled? I'm just saying. It takes a long time to unlearn everything. Because all your doctrinal stuff is still going to be from that denomination. Maybe the mechanics have switched, but doctrinally, you're still going to be thinking through those filters. It's hard. All right, where's the mic? Anybody want the mic? Okay, bring it to Robert. Oh, of course, you want the mic. Listen, I can't help it. Nate loves the mic. What can I do? No, I'm teasing. I'm just teasing you. You can take it.
Great.
I see you just trying to kiss up to me wearing a red shirt. I see how you are.
Yes, absolutely. I really appreciate the teaching. A lot was said today that I need to work on, that I've been going through even recently. The other day, we were going by Lowe's, and another gentleman said, oh, I love your seat. I said, oh, thank you. You know about the seat? You know? And he said, oh, of course. I said, oh, where are yours? And he had him tucked in, and I probably shouldn't have gone there because I didn't know who he was. And I'm learning that maybe this is the second time that it's happened. And Abba's like, you did it again, Nate. And like you said, there comes a point where we start to take it as our own. We start to own it. And it's not my place to correct. And another thing that came out of that conversation was that he was from another group that's in this local area. And immediately, and it's always been in my heart to see the unity of the body come together. It's always been there. I hate that there's denominations. It drives me, and I've taken it personal. And today it just kind of dawned on me that you've taken it personal. It's not your business, it's his. And immediately what I wanted to do, and I thought about, and I reached out to some of the brothers that, hey, I would really like to be able to go to these other congregations that are Messianic in the area and say, why aren't we working together? We're doing exactly as the rest of the denominations around there. We're doing exactly the same thing. We're not working together. And thank you, because that brought to light, I need to lay that down. And that comes from my own denominational background of why I need to take a back seat and shut up and just pay attention. So that was just one of the many things that I needed to repent to, not only to everybody here, but to our Father, that it's not my place. And talking about fear and doubt, I think I mentioned to my rabbi, my teacher, that we always get to this place in our family where we just start to get to this point in our lives, and then everything just seems to fall apart. Or maybe it's just something that I'm not doing as a leader of my own home. And we're just about at this point again, and I noticed, hey, you're actually panicking about this. This is something really simple. Like, I've been in helicopters where we've almost crashed, or in cars where I was at total peace with, okay, Abba, if it's your will, I'm okay with that. But something as simple as seeing what it is that Abba has for us in our family, when it doesn't exactly go the way that I think it should go, I start to panic. It may not be very obvious physically, but it's in here. And I need to go, not my will, but your will, whatever it is. I need to be aware that I'm being tested to the almost point. You brought that up. Almost. It's only in that almost moment, really, that Abba really sees what's in us, that we can be changed. So thank you, Rabbi.
Amen. Now, let me say something very important that Nate triggers, from you. By the way, a lot of people out there are triggered. That's different. I'm not saying I'm triggered, but it stirred a thought. And that is, and I've said this to him and his wife before, and I've said it to a lot of other people in counsel, you have to recognize that if you're here now in a structure that you voluntarily have become a part of, and you're under an authority, and this is different than you've ever had, that by default, things are actually different. Let me say that again for all of you, because they know I've told them that, because they'll be like, oh, but this is happening again. No, it's not the same. Well, but it feels the same. It may feel the same, but now you have me to come to, which you didn't before. Now you're inside of a body of a structure that you didn't have before. So for all of you, when things start to look like they've always looked, and you start to have the panic, recognize that by default, if you're here now in a group, in a structure that you submitted under leadership, and you've never done that before, it is actually not the same. It is different. It may feel the same, it may look the same, but Yahweh wants to see if you'll act the same or you'll trust and recognize that it actually is different. Because it is, if you've not had this available to you before. And so that's an important thing, because he's going to still let it look, oh, here we go. It looks like that, here we go again. But you are not in the same place that you were when those things happened. You're in a totally different place emotionally, spiritually, in terms of leadership and structure, and having counsel and available help and that support that way. So that's for all of you, because I know that's something I had to talk to them about. I've had to talk to you guys about. Don't just think everything's the same when it starts looking the same. If you are actually different, because maybe before you hadn't had your eyes open and now you're trying to walk Torah, or now you're in structure and you were never in a structure before, and you've got counsel and you didn't have counsel before, well, maybe you had counsel, but it was bad counsel, but you like the counsel you're getting now, like you trust it, etc. Well, then it is different. Now, some of you, it's not different because you're not utilizing what's available to you, even within the structure. You just kind of are here and you're not utilizing what's available. You need to take advantage of, in an appropriate way, what's available to you. When stuff starts looking like it, don't just panic, make a phone call and say, this is feeling like it's something that's happened to us many times, and I'm nervous, and then I can help you understand, well, is this really the same or just feels the same? There's a difference. Something can feel the same and not really be the same, or it looks the same, or, well, is it really the same though? And did you have someone like me to go to at that point and ask for guidance? And the answer is no, then it's different. And now we're dealing with something different. Okay, so I'm really glad that you brought that up, even though I picked on you.
I wanted to bring up one more thing, that I'm committed to being Rabbi's disciple, meaning I've given him complete authority to speak into my life with whatever it is. And I can tell you, I can count on no hands how many times he's actually come to me, I think, and said, you need to change this. It's always, I either approach him and ask him, what he thinks I should do. And of course, I'm going to say yes. I'm not going to argue with him. Especially if I come for that counsel, I know for some reason or another, scripturally, that if I come to him for counsel, and I don't receive that counsel, then I'm in trouble with him upstairs. So just for those of you that are thinking about, well, what does this leadership look like and what does this counsel look like? It's not like anything I've ever approached, but I'm very thankful that I have, because I usually have to hunt him down to get corrected. So I really appreciate that. Maybe it may work different ways with other folks, but for me, I really appreciate that you do have that ear for us when we need that help, and I'm really looking forward to more discipleship training, and I'm praying for a more different schedule, at least with my work, so that I can be more available, so I can sit and relearn a lot of the things that I even didn't realize that I had learned.
I appreciate that. Look, more often than not, the only thing that you're really going to hear from me is, why didn't you call me? If this was going on, why did you wait? Because I wasn't going to call you looking to find out, by the way, you okay this week? I'm not going to call and check on you. But you, if you know something's going on, I'll be like, why'd you wait 2 weeks to call? Why'd you wait till this already blew up in your face? Why didn't you call? This is not a cult. We have to say this like 100 times. This is a properly structured relationship where you are responsible for you, but you have at your availability, you have help and guidance if you want that to be available. You don't have to take it, and I'll never scold you for not taking it. Now, if you're somebody that interacts with me, I'll look at you like, well, you see, you should have called me sooner. Why didn't you? I mean, you already knew, and then you got to figure out, well, was it a pride thing? Was it an ego thing? Was it because you knew I was going to give you an answer that you weren't going to like? You got to sort through that and figure out what held you back. Okay? All right, Robert.
All right, from Lori Fitch. What if I am afraid of what I may have to give up or endure to prove myself? Am I afraid I may fail?
All right, first of all, you sound like most people on the planet, so don't feel bad. Okay? You're in very common ground there. Though excuse me. We have developed this type of human being by now. I'm not talking about evolution. I'm just saying culturally and societally through the last 6,000 years, this is what we have ended up with. Completely disempowered, insecure, afraid, whatever people. So I'm not picking on you or the person who asked the question. The body in general, 85, 90% is just like this. If not all, we're afraid we're not good enough. We're not going to make it. What if I don't make it? What if I can't do this? What if I do this and it all blows up in my face and my friends don't talk to me? I lose my... We are just all driven by fear. That is Hasatan. All about fear and doubt. Everything you just said was fear and doubt. And again, I'm not picking on you. You are 99% of what I counsel every day is people struggling because they don't know what to do and they have doubt and they have fear. How do you fix that? It takes a long time of persistent, consistently battling against it and deciding you're going to walk in trust. And also, keep listening to that fear of Yahweh teaching. The only fear you should have is to fear him. And the subtitle was always, and if you fear him, you'll never be afraid of anything or anyone again. Okay? But you don't trust him, or you're not trusting, you don't have someone here physically to trust. We have trust issues because we've been abandoned, neglected, abused, controlled, dictated to, bullied. I mean, we've everything you could possibly ignored, avoided, shunned. I mean, on all spectrums, overly pushed into or overly just totally nobody cared about you. All that has happened to us in our lives. And yet we're supposed to now trust and have no doubt and no fear. That's hard. You know why? Because everybody else around you is just as screwed up, to be blunt. And they're gonna disappoint you. They're gonna let you down. They're gonna ignore you and shun you and abuse you and neglect you and ridicule you and mock you and try to control. All of the stuff you're afraid of, somebody that you know is gonna do that once you walk into a congregation. And then you're gonna be like, oh, see? There it is again. Well, of course it's there again. We're all human beings struggling with the same stuff. So what do you expect? I should look this way instead of that way because the person's over here watching. But that's the whole, that is the whole secret to the whole thing. Can we win this battle? And if we can, he'll give you an incorruptible suit. And it's all got to be about letting it go. Can you let go of all that stuff? And it's kind of like those things they do in group building and trust building where they have the person fall backwards. And you got to trust someone behind you who's actually going to catch you. Can you do that? But can you do it not without actually turning around to make sure there's somebody there? See, it's one thing to have people behind you saying, I'm here, and they tap you on the shoulder. I'm right here. I'm going to catch you. It's another thing to have Yahweh say it, and you can't turn around and just see him standing right there. He's not tapping you on the shoulder. He just tells you in his word, and can you believe him? Fear and doubt versus trust and belief. The reason we do what we do, and I'm not picking on you, the person who asked this question, all of us have the same problem. We still don't believe what he said. We don't believe him. Oh yeah, I'm sure that works for other people, but it's not going to work for me. We don't believe him. Yeshua said it even with the disciples right there. He says, when I return, am I going to find belief? Or am I going to find fear and doubt? Because remember, all of us are sitting there right there in the same boat with the water flowing and everything, and then Yeshua sleeping. At least he looked like he was sleeping. I have no doubt that he knew what was going on. Nobody was really at risk. Does anybody think that anybody on that boat was actually at risk? No. But you're not on that boat with those guys, and they were fishermen, and they knew what a boat about to get capsized and sink looks like in a storm. Well, you're in your own thing. And by the way, if you describe the boat you're in with the water flowing over to somebody else in this room, they'd all look at you like, what are you worried about? Because they can't relate to the boat you're talking about unless they're in that same boat. So what you guys do is you look for people in the same boat. And then you commiserate with each other, and you're all miserable, and you're all panicking, and you're all afraid, and you're getting nowhere. Maybe that's where that phrase comes from, we're like, oh, we're all in the same boat, or looking for somebody in the same boat. You're looking for somebody in that same situation that looks all terrible. Go find somebody who's already figured out that boat isn't going to sink and let them encourage you. Oh, I've been in that boat, and it worked out fine. I was at a job where my boss told me I was going to lose my job if I didn't work on Saturday, and guess what? I ended up with a better job. Oh, I was in the same boat, and then Yah intervened because I trusted and walked it out, and it all worked out. So why don't you look for somebody that already successfully has been in that boat, not someone who's still sitting in it with the water up to here, and they're almost drowning in that boat because they're still panicking. You got to stop panicking, you know? But you have to go find someone who's been through what you've been through. All right, next question.
All right, Janet Hoffman. How do we get to guard our covenant at the Ruach level in the fruits of the Spirit? And also, how can we get to the point of sincerely saying, Yahweh, bring it on and I will show it to you?
Sometimes these questions are hard because I just want to look, these things are so simple. I'm not mocking you. I'm not picking on you. You are in the same room with a lot of people feeling the exact same way you do. You got to want it more than you want anything else. How's that for an answer? What do you mean, how can you walk out the covenant with the fruit of the Spirit? Just do it. Want it. Walk it out. How can you, whatever the second question was, just do it. Want it more than you want anything else. You know, there's an old proverb, I don't know if it was Chinese or whatever it was, might have been an old thing with a Torah teacher. All the cultures have these similar stories about the student wanting something so bad, and the teacher taking them out into the water and throwing them under the water and holding them down as a way to teach them the lesson. And the person, because the student's like, why can't I figure this out, and why can't I learn this? And then when he's kicking, he's flashing, he's doing everything to get out of that water so he can breathe. And he says, when you want what you want, as bad as you just want it to breathe, you'll have it. So how do you do all this stuff? How about want it more than you want anything else? There's only one way into the kingdom. You got to want it bad enough. I don't know if preachers teach that. I don't know if I've ever said that. The only way in is to want it bad enough, because if you want it bad enough, you'll do what you need to do. That's the old, where there's a will, there's a way. But people don't understand what the word will means. You've got to want it so bad that you'll figure it out one way, no matter what, you're going to make it happen. But you don't want it that bad. It's not real enough to you, like you can tangibly feel it. What's real to you is all the pain you're in, and all the misery and the suffering and all the I don't have and I don't like and I wish my life was different, blah, 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 blah. Instead of having it be so real, like Yeshua's being scourged and everything, and he's like, you know what, but this isn't even real. What's real is the glory I'm going to get afterwards. This isn't real. Oh, sure, they were scourging him, ripping his skin off and flogging him and everything else they were doing, and eventually crucifying him. But that's not real. Your life right now is not real. This is leading to real. Can you embrace that? And you're trying to get to real. When you're changed, that's real. This is temporary. Anybody been a temporary employee? You know you lose your job anytime. You're temporary. You can't count on it. You got to be planning for other things because you know it's not real. But you can have, like in schools, teachers can be tenured where basically they hit a certain point where they can't even be fired, basically. That's when it becomes real. Okay? You guys are now like all temporary ones in this temporary life. It's not real. It's what you need to pass through to get to real life. So how do you do all those things? Well, figure out why you don't want it bad enough. That's why you're even asking the question. Because you're not asking the question like, where does it fit in? You want to say, how do I get that? How do you get this by wanting it bad enough? So you want to covenant with love, joy, peace, patience, all that stuff. You want it, you'll start focusing on it, and you'll start thinking about it, and you'll want to be aware of what you're doing. And am I loving? Am I joyful? Do I have peace? Do I have patience? Am I kind? Am I meek? Am I gentle? Do I have self-control, right? The 9 aspects of the fruit. Because you want something bad enough, you know what you do? You obsess. You think about it all the time. Think about when you met your spouse, and all you could do is think about them. Before you got married, all you do is think about him, think about her, whatever, all the time, all the time, all the time. And then you had to think about, how am I going to convince that person to marry me someday? Because I am obsessed. I want him. I want her. I want her or him every day. And then you get married and you forget that that's what you wanted. Shame on all of you. You wanted it so bad, and now you're trying to figure out how to get out. Next question.
From Rachel Johnson, is the curse on the house of the wrong the curses of Deuteronomy 11:26?
The curses are whatever Yahweh wants to do to get your attention and disciplining.
All right.
Remember, the curses are supposed to be instructional. So he's not going to just put a random curse on you unless it's a curse that's appropriate to what he feels will get your attention to make you make the change. Okay.
Okay, from Shauna. As wives, our proving ground is us learning to be submissive to our husband's leadership, and as it references James 1:25, it deals with our rebellious attitude. She said she meant that in the form of a question.
Okay, so I say this all the time. Ladies, you have absolutely an advantage over the men. You do. And the reason is because you can practice in a much more readily available way the things that for men is much harder to do. Because if you're married, or when you're younger, you have a father, you can practice submission every day, all the time. There's opportunities will come up where you can practice submission. For men, it's a little tougher. They've got to go find an authority to come under. There isn't any built-in default authority for the men. But you have an advantage. If you get married and you have a husband, you have a built-in proving ground, training ground to see and understand what submission is all about. So I think that's what the question has to do with. That is an advantage. Except, of course, you know, Julie and I, when we first got married, we went to another wedding. Somebody else got married like right after us, and we're sitting there, and they got to the part where the vows are going, and one of the vows was about the woman saying, "And to submit myself to you," and a lady sitting in front of us like, "I'll show you my submission. Yeah, submit this." I mean, she was like, "Yeah, submission." She couldn't believe that was even in the vows. This lady was sitting in front of us. Remember that? But yet, what a blessing that you have that opportunity. Because it's not about him, your husband. It's about showing him, your heavenly Father, that you understand what this looks like. Now, men, I don't want to leave you out of this. This is why you need to find an anointed, appointed, and you need to do like what Nate was saying, find a teacher, find somebody that you can submit under and learn submission, because I can promise you some of the things that I've told him, not many probably, that I've told him either to do or not do, he probably wasn't thrilled about. But he did them anyway, or didn't do them anyway, because he was learning submission in that position. But that was submission is always a voluntary relationship. Ladies, it should have been and probably was a part of your standard vows, that you were going to submit to your husband. Yeah, but he's doing such a lousy job. Well, are you encouraging him? Are you believing in him? Or are you kicking him and telling him what a loser he is? What was I thinking when I married this guy? You know. Or do you go over to him and say, "Honey, I know you're struggling with this thing, but I know you can do it, and I believe, and I'm going to trust you, and you can get it done." Next question.
Okay, from Cheryl, regarding submission to husbands. As a Torah observant wife, do I submit in all things as long as my non-Torah observant husband does not require me to go against the Father?
Okay, so first of all, and this is a caution to anyone that ever gives marriage-related counseling, okay, understand that when questions come up like this, all, no exceptions, all relationships are unique on some levels. So you can't just give like a wide sweeping paintbrush that paints everything. So you got to be careful with that. Generally speaking, if your husband is not in covenant and you are, you should not be treating him any different than you were in covenant, unless it's a situation that would conflict with your Torah-observant covenant, which is your greater covenant. And then if you get one of those situations, you should have someone like me to call to find out what to do. Because you want to make sure that you're actually discerning correctly what are issues that are of covenant and which ones are not. Because there are people out there that are married to uncovenanted spouses who are doing very well. I mean, they're not perfect, you know, they have their issues, but they are doing well because they've developed a level of respect that each one's walking out their thing. But that doesn't change the relationship of husband and wife. So you need to find a way. So when you're dealing with because this person asking me the question, I promise you, has very specific things in their head that they're thinking of, situations that happen with and that's why they should call to deal with those specific things. Because those specific things will be different for every couple. So I can't give you a specific answer when I don't know what your specific issues are. But in general, you covenanted with your husband. You need to maintain that. What you don't know what to do is when it conflicts with Torah observance. Okay, and that's where we have a different discussion. And we'll try to cover a lot of those things, and I think we've done it a little bit in other teachings. We'll have teachings just dealing with husbands and wives and all those roles, and then we'll bring up some of those, what do we do when we're in a mixed marriage, an unequally yoked situation. Okay?
Okay, from Jennifer Warren, her 14-year-old goes to a secular school full-time, and he has a question. Should someone who is knowingly struggling with something be wearing their tzitzit? I.e., if someone is gay but wants to be obedient to Yahweh, should he or she be wearing the tzitzit? Knowing they're struggling. Knowing they're struggling.
Yeah, no, okay, two things. One is, if you're a teenager, I would say that I wouldn't be wearing the tzitzit unless you understand why you're wearing them, what they mean, and you're declaring yourself for Yah. Because if you're going to go out there and act like all teenagers do, I'm not so sure that that's always the best idea, unless you're going to allow them to help to discipline you, because you know they're on, and it will help filter some of your choices as a teenager. Then it'll be a great thing. Because really, I don't push the issue until someone goes in the water and they're at least 20. Okay, because then you're covenanted. Tzitzit wearing is a covenant action, okay? It's not for uncovenanted people. Now, that being said, if you're doing anything on a lifestyle basis that you know is wrong scripturally, don't wear the tzitzit and declare otherwise. Just deal with your struggle. When you finish struggling, you put the tzitzit on. By the way, then if you see somebody without tzitzit on, it's okay for them to say to you, I'm not wearing them because there's still some things I'm struggling with, and I'd rather not embarrass my father. So it's not that I don't want to wear them, and I don't have to tell you what I'm struggling with. But I just personally don't feel that I'm representing him well enough. Okay? Now bear in mind, it's more important what I just said if what you're doing is publicly visible than if it's not. Okay? Because if you're going to be publicly visible and wearing a tzitzit and show the public what it means to be a child of Yah, hey, that's great. You may still be struggling with something privately, whatever that might be. Maybe it's some sort of an addiction or whatever. That's up to you. I'm not here to tell you definitively from Scripture to wear them or not. They were to wear them to remind them to keep Torah. They weren't wearing them because they were perfect at it. Okay? However, bringing dishonor and shame, if you're working Saturdays, you're not wearing your tzitzit to work on Saturday. If you're openly homosexual, you're not going to act that way in front of people and wear your tzitzit. You understand what I'm saying? But if you're struggling with pornography, or if you're struggling with anger or some other thing that makes you sin, but you don't do it always and in public, well, we're all flawed human beings. Yeah, go ahead and wear your tzitzit, and hopefully you gain some strength out of the reminder that you're supposed to be Torah observant. So too many of you make this mistake. I'm not saying the person who asked the question did. Too many of you make the mistake that I'm not going to do this, this, or this until I'm more perfect. When do you think that's going to happen? You're using it as an excuse to justify not doing it. Be honest. So there isn't a level of holiness, kadoshness, straightness, observance that you must reach before putting the tzitzit on. You put them on because you made a commitment to make the effort to submit to the authorities of Torah, Yahweh, and Yeshua. Does that make sense? Okay? However, that being said, if you know you're openly going to be misrepresenting what that means, because the secular world's going to see you, see it, and start to figure out, oh, that's what it means because I see what you're doing and you're wearing them, and that's what people who wear them do. You're representing more. So if your struggle is more private, go ahead and wear the tzitzit. If it's something that's really out there where people will see it and notice it, don't do it. Don't wear them. You're not ready. Okay, tzitzit wearing is a different thing than other commandments. Okay, you don't have to be ready to start keeping Shabbat. But making a public declaration of the tzitzit, don't wear them while you're still working on Saturday, and wear them to work. And don't wear them the rest of the days of the week and take them off on Saturday, hypocrite. If you're wearing them, then stand up for Shabbat. All right, next question.
Okay, two more. From Georgia, regarding Yah giving us a way out, is it a physical way out, or is it more, he said, do or don't do, so we need to just do or don't do?
Yes, and partial. Yes, he will sometimes give you a physically way out. The partial is that it's not about the do's and don'ts. It's about if you focus on the do's and don'ts, he will guide you into a way where there's a path to fixing the problem. Whether it's something in you that needed to change or a physical path out. In other words, okay, you have a situation, for example, like where your job is being threatened. Okay, well, are you going to trust him that he'll give you a better job? Okay, or maybe it's something that he's allowing you to have a health issue. I'm not saying all health issues are the same, but maybe you're having a health issue because you've got this stumbling thing you keep stumbling on, and as soon as you clean that up, he'll heal your health issue. It depends on what he's trying to get your attention for. Now, maybe you can't figure that out. Well, go ahead and get counsel. Maybe the counselor can help you. And by the way, I do not claim that if you come to me, I will know whatever it is and why you're going through what you're going through. It's possible that I might. It's possible that whoever you talk to. But I'm just saying is, the reason you're going through it is the reason you're going through it. And the best thing you can do is try to be as trusting and obedient, and trust that if you are trusting and obedient, it will work out. Okay? Anybody else?
Yeah, last one. From Harold and Elizabeth Olson. You stated Yahweh will sometimes push us to the limit so he can see what we will do. How does that fit with him being all-knowing?
Okay, so I'm hard-pressed to find the verses that say that he's all-knowing. I'm not saying he isn't. He knows the end from the beginning. But that's because he can see time as if he could see the end and the beginning at the same time. The point is, you have to do it. He's already seen you do it. He picks you because he knows what you're going to do because he's seen you already do it. It's not that he knows what you will do because he can just see into your future. Like, I know the type of person they are, so these are the things I like to do, so I'm not going to make them do it. No, he knows already what it all looks like. He's outside of time. And by the way, he's also all-powerful, all whatever, and all these other things, and guess what? He gets to do it his way. And if he chooses to get you to do it so he can see you do it, that's his choice. Why are you questioning his methodology? That's the problem. See, if he knows, then why do we have to do it? See, this is still that Christian not wanting to have to do anything mentality you need to let go. Stop looking for the easy escape route. You've got to do it. By the way, not only that, let me stop. I didn't say that sentence right. Not only will he know when you do it, here, check this out. You'll know that you can do it. And you need to know that. You need to know what you're able to do, the strength that you didn't even know was inside of you, the conviction level, the courage that's in there. He makes you do it not for him, but for you. Because you need to know the type of decisions you'll make under those pressures. Does that make sense? Awesome. Caleb, you had a question? All right, we got to get the mic back over to Caleb. Robert's going to bring it.
So when I first came into this...
Stand up.
Yeah, when I first came into this, it was pretty much like, I don't know, I got my tzitzits, and it was like, here, you want to do it? Here's your tzitzits. And one thing I think is that I wish I'd see more people just didn't throw tzitzits at people when they come in, because like you said, I mean, even with your children, like, I think it's something that's just being stigmatized instead of letting the person realize that what they actually mean and being in covenant. And people need to, like you said, let people make that decision, get over whatever they're struggling with. Because when I came into it, I was wearing my tzitzits and I was working on Shabbat. I'm sure you remember that. And it took a while for the fear of me not losing my job to finally do that. But I wish I wasn't wearing my tzitzits when I was doing it. And that's something that I look back at now, and it's like, I just wish people would realize the importance of it and what they're doing when they're wearing them.
I appreciate that. And actually, by the way, you might as well just quit because you already blew it and you wore tzitzit on Saturday. But that's the way we feel. That's the way people feel. They feel like, well, I don't want to do this, and then if I make a mistake, then I'm doomed. That's Christian thought. That somehow you're going to do something and you're doomed to hell now or something, okay? He wants us to do and make the effort, and then as we learn, we adjust and we fix what we need to fix. Stop waiting to be perfect to start doing, because you're going to mess up what you do no matter when you start. So the only way to get good at it is to do it. Practice makes perfect is still true, period. Problem is, just remember, practice makes perfect doing things right or wrong. If you practice doing it wrong, you get perfect at doing it wrong. Okay? So you got to be always looking to make adjustments, always rechecking, always re-qualifying, am I doing this right? Okay, Dawn?
I just wanted to throw in an example real quick about something you said today that really kind of hit or nailed something home, was that we don't have to understand everything before we actually start doing it. To a point, we have to do it. And what I understood was, since Raiden has been learning how to drive, she's learning how to drive. She doesn't have to understand the intricate workings of an engine to be able to learn how to drive the car. So I just thought that would be a pretty good example.
Amen. And actually, Raiden would not even be able to drive a car just by reading the book on it and the rules and the manual and watching videos. You actually have to get in one and drive it. I mean, the only way you're actually going to understand anything is by doing it on that level. You can only understand so much about it until, I mean, how many of you absolutely understood what marriage is going to be like before you got married? Nope. And some of you had littler siblings and stuff, so you thought you knew what children are like until you had one, right? You really don't understand most things. You really can't understand them until, same thing with Shabbat. You probably heard all about Shabbat for years on and off, and why we moved to Sunday, everything else, until you started keeping it. But you could not understand, why is everybody all excited about Shabbat? Until now you are. But you couldn't get that until you started doing it. With doing comes understanding. Okay? Awesome. Anybody else? All right, so let's go ahead and get the children.